Hey everyone, I wanted to bring you all a bonus Let's Create video this week. I decided that before we move on to any more mechanics, such as Trace's recall, Hanzo's scattershot, or the Titanfall 2 wall running, and all of the other fun stuff, would make our own project together. Instead of relying on Unreal's templates, we'll learn how to create a blank project from scratch. We're going to develop our own movement, camera look, and our own little level. This will set the foundation for all videos over the next few months. Later on, we'll move on to looking at third-person games and doing a Let's Create in that style. At that point, we'll also create a blank project and do it all from scratch. For now, let's begin. As I explained earlier, we are not going to use any of the default templates. We are instead going to use the blank project. And let's call this our Let's Create project and hit Create Project. The first things we want to do when we start this is to set up our folder structure. We then want to make an FPS controller blueprint. We want to make a game mode. And then we're going to go into creating a little level, as I mentioned before. So now inside of here, let's create our folder structure. So we'll need a maps folder. We'll also be needing a blueprints folder. And we'll need an art folder, which we will use in another episode. We're then going to have to save this map, so hit save current, go to maps, and we'll call this our Let's Create map. Now we can't lose any progress here. We can now go into blueprints, right click, create a blueprint class. We want to create a character, so character is type of one that includes the ability to walk around. Call it an FPS controller. And let's open this up and do some setup in here. So you'll notice there's nothing here. It's very different to the template. We're going to set it up so we can use it like the template. Don't forget, we still have all our character movement stuff here. We just get more control over what we create in here. We get to do it by ourselves. The first thing we want to do is create a spring arm. Now you probably know this as a camera boom. That's what they usually rename this. This spring arm is going to allow us to change distance with the camera. It's going to allow us to do some cool stuff with being able to get the input of the mouse and affect our rotation properly. And we can also use some of the lag settings to create weapon sway later on. We're then going to create our camera. And because I had this selected, it became a child. If you didn't, just drag it onto spring arm and it'll become a child. Now, the problem you see here is that first-person camera needs to be inside of this collider, this capsule collider. So let's go to spring arm, and we're going to make the target arm length 0. We're then going to move the spring arm up a bit, and that looks pretty good. It's near the center. The only other thing we want to do is use pawn control rotation, because we want to control the rotation with our mouse input. So we're going to click that, click compile, save. And now we've done all the pre-setup. We can make a game mode. So create blueprint, game mode base, FPS game mode, and we can edit this game mode. So as you can imagine, a game mode allows us to control what mode the player is currently using. In this case, we're in FPS game mode. You could have multiple game modes for capture the flag with unique settings. So different clients on servers appear and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to keep it super basic though, and we're just going to create our normal game mode. And we're going to first have a look through here. So we don't need a session, we don't need the state. What we do need is our default pawn class, which is that first person character. And our default pawn class is the character that is the pawn, I should say, the pawn that is going to spawn in the level. By spawning our FPS controller, we can control that character. But we're not done yet. We still need to go to settings, project settings, and inside of project settings, we need to set the appropriate game mode. In this case, instead of the game mode base, which is the default that Unreal comes with, we need to go to the FPS game mode. Now what will happen is if we close this, hit play, we have spawned in as the player. You might not understand why, but we can't actually move if you try to move around. That means it was successful what we did. Now, before we get into programming anything, we need to set up our inputs. So go to Settings, Project Settings, and we're going to look at the Input Manager, which is down here. We have Action and Axis. Axis is usually for movement. Action is usually for some form of action such as shooting, jumping, and dashing, all of those things. So we're going to go into Axis Mappings, and what we need in here, we need to set up our horizontal and vertical movement. We are then going to give it an A value, which is the keyboard for A. We are then going to give it the D value, which is the input for D. And you can also give it a gamepad if you like, but we're not going to do that in this video. W, S, and then what we're going to do is set the A to -1 so we can move left with A, right with the D, forward with W, and then back -1 with S. We then need 2 additional axis mappings, and this is mouse look horizontal and mouse look vertical. And what we're going to be doing is tracking our horizontal and vertical movement. So in here, we're going to get mouse, and we're going to get mouse X, and in here we're going to get mouse Y. For the Y, we need -1 so it moves up and down properly, unless you like to invert the controls. The only other thing we need now is to add in the jump action mapping. So type in jump, and we're going to use the spacebar. Alright, this is everything we need to get set up. So now we can access these inside of our blueprint. So we're going to go to the FPS controller, and we're going to begin. So we're going to start with our mouse input. So right click, and we're going to put input, and then mouse look horizontal. Right click, type in input again, mouse look vertical. And when it comes to turning left and right, looking left and right, we need to add controller yaw, because that's the left and right, and give it this axis value so it knows which way we want to turn. Then for this, we need to use pitch, so add controller pitch input and drag the axis value into that. Let's test if this worked. And you should be able to look around. If it's inverted, that means you just need to change the -1 in your settings, your game settings. And now, something I learned off the comments the other day, you can just highlight all of these, press C, and type in mouse input. So thank you everyone who commented that, that was really helpful. The next thing we want to do is get our movement input. To do this, we need our input axis, we need to get horizontal, and we can just type in vertical because we know what that is, so vertical. And we're going to use an awesome node. This node is called add movement input, which takes in a direction and a scale value. Our scale value is of course our axis value, and our world direction is which direction we want to move in, which is our right vector. So get right vector. I'm going to plug that in there. And then we're going to get actually, one other thing I want to mention, just a quick demonstration. When we move our mouse, we could potentially end up in a situation where our character's like this, looking at the ground. If you're looking at the ground like this, if we have rotated our character like this, looking at the ground, and you move forward, the movement will be slower. We need to set up something so our character can only look around on the Z axis and move around on the Z axis. That way, everything will be fine when it comes to the rotation. In order to fix that, what we need to do is get control rotation. We need to then split this into 3, and the value I mentioned is Z. So remember, we only want to move around on the Z. Make rotator. We're going to break link Z. We're then going to drag that into here. Whoops, into the inrot. We're going to hit compile save, and let's see what happens. So now we can move left and right. If we look down, we're still moving at the same speed. If we look up, we're still moving at the same speed. That is the only reason we put this in here. Now, we're going to finish this off by doing the exact same steps we did here. So, add movement input. We're going to get the forward vector. We're going to chuck that into scale value and then chuck that into world direction. Compile, save, hit play, and now we have first person movement. The only thing missing is our jump. And we're also missing our comment. By the way, you can just delete these for now, we don't need those. So select these, comment, movement, input, and if you want to tidy these up, feel free to. I'm probably going to do it later. And the only other thing left now is to get our spacebar input. So we call this jump and not space. So let's get jump. And jump's really funny because it's just a node called jump. And you might be wondering, well, how do we modify the speed and stuff? All of that stuff in terms of, whoops, I just messed that up. All of the modifying of jump and speed, you go to your camera movement and you can find your jump and falling controls. I'm going to set our air control to 1 so we have maximum air control. And if you want to change the height, it's just this here. Same thing with speed, you can change all of your settings here. So let's hit compile, save, close this, hit play, and now we can jump and move around our tiny level. We have done, whoops, escape. We've done nearly everything that we needed to do. There is one bit left and I want to create a small level with you guys. So let's go and hit add new, add feature or content pack. We're going to go to content packs and we're going to create the starter content. And we're just going to add that to our project. This comes with a lot of cool stuff, some basic materials, a few different types of walls, ramps, doors, a lot of stuff that we can use to quickly set up our project. And by having this for all future projects, we can try lots of different things. Wall running, sliding off ramps, stuff like that. So if you go into your starter content, you've got all these things. We're going to go into our architecture. And we've got floors and stuff like this. So we're actually going to delete this, the default floor. Drag in floor. We're going to give it a location of 0, 0, 0, so it's in the center. Now, if you hold Alt and left click on an axis, you can move it out like that. You can move the object around. And we're just going to create a very small kind of playground with a few interesting bits. So let's choose the 500 by 5, actually no, let's choose the 400 by 300 wall. That's nice. All of these props, of course, were designed to snap, which is nice. Put that on there. We're probably going to modify this more and more as we go through our series, but it's nice to have something to look at rather than just a gray scene, because we're going to be adding materials and I want to show you guys how to add those to the scene. So if you're a bit more of an advanced user, then a lot of what we've discussed here might not apply to you, but I really wanted to put this out for people who haven't done any of this stuff before much, haven't had experience setting up their own controllers and stuff like that. So I just want to create a cool little section down here that's a bit cut off. So let's select all these, drag that over there. All right, let's drag these. Remember, I'm just holding Alt and left clicking. Press E rotate, then left click and drag. Alright, then I should be able to select 4 of these, hold Alt, do a mass rotate, and just put these into place. Cool. Select these 2. And let's get our player controller. And let's just set this up really quickly. So click here, click plus, type in environment. We're going to click floor, shift click to here, just drag those into environment. We're going to get the other walls and chuck them in there. We're going to get our player start and put it somewhere back here. We're then going to adjust our light source so the shadows aren't so harsh. Okay. We're going to also, really quickly, we're going to add a section out here. And let's grab, we have some shapes as well. Do we have, actually, we'll do that in the next video. We'll go back to architecture and, so we've got a pillar. I just want to create something where we can test our jump. We're actually going to scale this pillar a little bit. So something of a little platformer challenge. If you want to test your jump, or if you have the Genji thing we did, you can do some jump and dash. Just a really simple little setup. Okay, now hit build lighting only. We'll add some materials. So once this is built, we're going to add some materials in, which will be nice. We'll just put these back into the environment. And the last thing we want to do, as I just mentioned, go into materials. You've got a lot of cool instances here. Feel free to do whatever you like. I'm going to type in floor and get all these floor actors. You'll notice there's a mesh here. And let's see what we get. So what's this look like? Marble floor, bricks. Yeah, bricks cool. Then we'll get our wall. And we can get something like that, or maybe something like this. We'll stick to something a bit like that for now. Hit play. And now we have a little scene that we can mess around with, jump in. We can test out our jump. And now we have our own little playground for all our mechanics for future episodes. And you can modify this to look however you like. I could spend forever here just making this look a bit better, actually. What's the name of this again? Floor. I just noticed one I like a bit better. Let's go to display to materials, chuck that in there. Yeah, that looks much nicer. And I'm not too into this wall. So really quickly modify this wall. It just looks a bit dull. What's this? Nah, cool. Awesome, this is good. So this is going to be our playground for all future episodes. From episode to episode, we might modify this. You don't have to have the exact same setup as I do, of course. I just thought it'd be fun to do something like this really quickly with you for those who aren't super aware of the editor tools. So now you've got your own first-person movement, you've got your game mode, you've got your level set up, and now you can go and have fun setting up this level. And you can have fun in preparation for the next Let's Create video. So, thank you all so much for watching. I was beyond overwhelmed and overjoyed at the response of the other one. So, it's going to be good to get these out and see the response from people. And thank you all for just watching my videos and checking out my channel, because my original goal this year was to get 2,000 subscribers, and now I'm close to 5,000. It's craziness. Anyway, thanks again. I hope this was useful. I hope you're excited for the future of the series. And remember, pursue what is important to you, because impossible is just a mindset. I'll see you in the next video.